The Judge Joe Brown Show, presented by Valerie Denise Jones. Uncensored truth with a legal twist. Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 929-477-1167. Now, welcome your host, the celebrity consultant, Valerie Denise Jones.
Important people, would you mind introducing the other VIP, Dr. Boyce Watkins? Could you do that for me? And I will, while you're doing that, I'm going to look to see if Judge is on the board.
Me introduce Dr. Boyce Watkins?
Yes, please.
Me? We're talking about...
You had so many wonderful things to say about him earlier.
Mount Rushmore. He's on Mount Rushmore. He's on the Mount Rushmore of excellence and brilliance. And Black One, B1. I love this brother.
Same here.
From the first minute I heard him talk. And I love his spirit. I love how he loves on black people, serves black people, educates black people, whoops their ass when they need an ass whooping, because we do. We all were raised by black parents. There are times that we just need a butt whipping. And he will do that. But I say he does it with a wet noodle, right? He does it eloquently and elegantly, but when he finishes with you, you know you got a butt whipping. I love that about him. He is courageous, articulate, learned. He has an incredible spirit and awesome taste in black women. He's one of my favorite people on the planet. I would go to the ends of the earth with him. And I would do anything he asked. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, none other than Dr. Boyce Watkins.
Amen.
Wow.
Welcome.
Wow. I'm humbled by that because Dr. Fraser I can't be on his Mount Rushmore because he's already on mine. So I have to just say I talk about Dr. Fraser all the time because there is a real need for additional masculine leadership in our community. We got a lot of 35, 40-year-old little boys out here that need to learn what real men look like. And when I think about what a man looks like, I think about Dr. Fraser. I think about Judge Joe Brown. I think about the other leaders that we have who can really teach us something. I was sitting here listening to Dr. Fraser speak, and I was really taking notes in my head. Everything from how he communicates, and he takes his time and he gets his points out, and you're learning to also how he gets things done. Dr. Fraser represents what actually for this year we had decided was our number one theme going into the convention this year, which was relationship building, the ability to connect with one another. And I'd say that a big part of the reason that we became great friends and the respect is entirely so mutual is because when he says that all black people need is black people, all we need is ourselves, I know I can that message always resonated with me, and I think the community gets that now, right? You can lay out all kinds of theories and economic models that will show simply that if black people simply learn how to love black people as much as we possibly cannot fail. We will not lose. And so I just, first of all, thank you for that awesome introduction. And also I'm honored to get a chance to be on the platform. I think I'm really on a high from the convention, the All Black National Convention this year, and Fraser, I hope I can talk you into coming out, for the next one.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those experiences where I really feel like all of us working together. I just can't help but feel like our people are going to be talking about this era for the next 100 years. I think we've laid out a blueprint, not just us, but so many other people in the community, where you can see the world changing. The world's changing right in front of us, and I just really hope people are optimistic. I like the way Dr. Fraser mentioned that this shift, the shift in mindset and the shift in actions connected to that mindset, how it's going to take time. You got to be patient. I know that we see a lot of things in the community that make us say, man, what's going on? And will we ever get it together? What's going to happen? You don't reverse 400 years of brainwashing in a 6-month period. It takes a while. And it's an intergenerational objective that we're on. And I believe that the greatest impact and the greatest multiplier from all the work that's being done right now by so many great people, it probably won't really be seen until after we're all gone, and so a lot of times when I'm talking, like I'm talking to you right now, I'm not just talking to us and the people in this room right now. I'm talking to the kids that are not even born yet. I just want to make sure the message is there so they can hear it, because, if you study history and you listen to some speeches Malcolm X gave in 1965, we know, or 61, whatever. We know that those speeches could have been given right now. They could be given today. If you listen to Du Bois wrote, so long ago, he could have wrote that last week. And so I encourage Black people to, at the very least, learn how to separate the substance from the flash. Learn how to know what real progress actually feels like versus the perception of progress. Substance versus symbolism, right? And because a lot of people have been lying to you. They've been telling you that we've made all this progress. But when you really measure what progress was made, we find that in the last 50 years, educationally, a big chunk of our community has gone backward. The only people that didn't go backward were the people who got off the grid and did it their own way and came up with their own secret sauce. The community at large, educationally, has gone backward, where you've got massive cities, some of these cities run by Black folks, some cities run by politicians that we support, where a big chunk of the kids can't even read at grade level. If you look at economics, Black wealth is dropping. In fact, I think I saw something the other day that said we're the only ethnic group that has less wealth than we had 20 or 30 years ago. It's something, I got to look at the exact stat. Yeah, something like that, right? When you talk about family structure, my God, what have they done to our families? And so what I really think has to occur is we have to make it simple. I believe focusing simply on that word love will carry you to a lot of places. Love is, in my view, the most powerful force in the universe. I choose love in response to pretty much anything, hate, whatever. I believe love is incredibly strong. Love is a life force that literally led to our existing on this planet. And the reason I say start with love is because if you really focus on loving yourself and loving each other and loving your people, then a person who is adequately loved, they don't need to go seek validation from anybody else. They don't need to go to their oppressor to say, am I worthy, boss? Am I good enough, right? Because you love yourself. A person who loves themselves and loves people that look like them, they don't need to go and leave their community to go find a good place to be. They want to be around people that are like themselves, right? A person that loves themselves can make a mistake and not see that mistake as some sort of defining attribute that limits you for the rest of your life. So if I'm a Black man who, maybe made a mistake when I was young and maybe I got sent to jail because of the laws and bad attorneys or whatever, I'm not going to let that define me in a way that limits all of the awesome possibility that God put inside of me. And so, when people ask me, I get asked all the time, what led to your transformation? How did you become whatever people think that I feel that I am right now. I don't know exactly what I am, but I know when I became that thing, and it really started with love. It started with me saying, I love Boyce. I like who he is. There's nothing wrong with this guy. He screwed up in certain ways. He makes mistakes. Sometimes he said stuff in the wrong way. But I love every part of that, right? And that love, what that does is that gives you courage. You can walk into situations and you can try things and do it wrong, and you can make a mistake and embarrass yourself, but you keep on going. I think that self-hate though does the exact opposite. It makes you give up. It makes you afraid. It makes you want to run away from each other, and then you run away from yourself, and it limits your possibilities and all these other things. So I really think that the word love, which actually connects very deeply to what Dr. Fraser always talked about in terms of relationships, I think that word love is a good place to start, because the most important relationship, or one of the most important relationships you have, in my view, is the relationship with yourself. And then that translates into the relationships you have with each other. And as I'm sure Dr. Fraser will explain, and I'll stop talking after I say this, is that if black people simply start working extra hard on having the best relationships we possibly can with other black people, we will win. Because healthy relationships, that breeds marriage, healthy marriages, that breeds friendships, that breeds economic relationships, that breeds education. I mean, Dr. Fraser and I are great friends because Dr. Fraser is just a damn good guy. And every time I talk to him, I know this guy loves me. I love him back, and it creates that reciprocity where he said he'll go to war with me. I go to war with him. And so find those people in your life that understand what love looks like, and they lead with love and respect and all these other good things. And those are people that you can build with. Right, and that's important to understand, that this power game that we're playing, this economic game that we're playing, all these games that we're trying to play right now with other communities, the white community, the Asian community, the Jewish community, etc. These are all team sports. These are team sports, and the challenge that we have to overcome is that during slavery we were really forced and trained to not operate as a team because they knew that's very dangerous, right? So we have a lot of people that are playing as individuals in a team sport. And I can tell you, you could be the best basketball player on the planet, but you can't win an NBA title by yourself. You can't win a Super Bowl with one really good quarterback. You need an entire team. So who's your team? And in order to maintain that team, you must be able to relate to one another. And I think love, love for your mission, love for yourself, love for each other, that's a good place to start.
Valerie, you should hit the applause button for that. I don't know if you have an applause button.
Okay, I would. Definitely. Here we go.
Here we go. The other thing I really love about Dr. Watkins, and I met him many, many years ago when he was at Syracuse, and I was speaking at Syracuse. He is a doer. He is not just an armchair philosopher. He is incredible, and can riff on almost anything. And I watch him a lot, and I love. The problem I have with watching Dr. Watkins is I can't stop watching him. I said, I'm going to watch him, this program today, for about a half hour, and I end up watching him for an hour and a half. That's how compelling he is. But he backs all of that up with things that, in fact, he's doing. He's doing it. He's not just saying it. Right? Mama taught me many years ago, what you do speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you say. He's doing it. His entrepreneurial institute, bringing his audience into the crypto space. I mean, he's just on top of it, doing it and providing instruments, vessels, and tools, which is what we need. There are 46 million black people in America, and we all need help. He helps to provide the tools. And that's just so powerful. And that's the key.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
the
you
key.
so much. Real quick, I don't mean to interrupt. Judge Brown is in the building. I wanted to give you a chance, if you could say a lot in a little bit of time. Let's show some love to your event, and you can also promote next year's event, because I know that I've already received invitations and so many things regarding next year. So if you could do that real quick, Dr. Boyce, and then I'm going to give you guys a chance to love on Judge, introduce him as opposed to me. So let's do that. Let's do that now, please.
Yeah, the All Black National Convention is a family reunion of people in our community who lead with love and want to connect with those who choose to operate on a higher vibrational frequency. We don't just get together and have an amazing number of feel-good moments. We also get together to engage in what we call the Black Core of Three. The Black Core of Three is that we believe Black people should educate our own children, create our own jobs, and support our own businesses. And so at the convention, there's a lot of commerce happening. There are lots of experts speaking. It's better than any university you'll ever attend. And it's something that we know. If you ask anybody who's ever been, they'll tell you very good things about the convention. So if people would like to learn more about next year, we've narrowed it down to 3 cities. It'll be either Detroit, Dallas, or Charlotte. And Dr. Fraser is on the line, so he should know that I'm going to call and ask him for his advice on how to do the convention the right way. And I also will say I will give complete credit to the great convention called FraserNet that Dr. Fraser has every year. And I'll just publicly state this, that I will always support and be a participant in FraserNet, because without people like him, there are no people like me. And I will never, ever forget that. So if people want to learn more, the URL is allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com.
Okay. Can I say a little bit, Valerie?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The Power Networking Conference will be in Houston, Texas, next year, August the 3rd through the 6th. This will be our 21st annual Power Networking Conference. It will be the first one live in 3 years. The last 2 had to be virtual. It was off the chain. But because of COVID, we could not do it live. But we'll be back live next year. So it's a place where you make new friends. You'll get new feelings, I promise you. You're going to leave your fears. You're going to leave your frustrations. You're going to leave your old, worn-out past behind. We have 50-plus speakers spread out over 4 days. Dr. Boyce Watkins is a headliner for next year. It is a place where you can make yourself a masterpiece. We focus only on 3 subjects: business, money, and wellness. Psychological wellness and our physical wellness, because they are deeply connected. We are deeply wounded people. We are out of our natural minds. Not all of us, just too many of us. Those who are not out of their natural minds go to Dr. Watkins' conference, and they come to our conference. There'll be over 2,000 people in attendance. And again, you'll make new connections and you'll find new business resources. I don't know if I'm allowed to make a special offer. Is that okay? I don't make a special offer to anybody that decides to come right now, because, the earlier the better. We're still 10 months away. And an adult registration for our conference is $1,500, and we urge you to bring a young person, 17 to 25. We should not be meeting without our young people sitting at the feet of masters like Dr. Boyce Watkins. And a student registration is $800. That's $2,300 for one adult and one student. I'm going to reduce that to $599, $1,700 off. You can't get that on our website. OurNetworkingConference.com. OurNetworkingConference.com. You have to email me. Only I can give you that offer. You have to email me at gfraser@frasernet.com. Say I'm in the subject line. In the body of the email, put your full name and your cell number. Your full name and your cell number. I will personally call you, and we will handle our business over the phone by credit card. That's my offer. I'm going to call that the special Judge Brown offer and Boyce Watkins offer.
I'm on, doctors.
Right. Are you on?
Thank you. Wait, Judge, you ruined it.
My two icons. So that's the offer.
Everybody knows me. I'm on here every week. I don't need any introduction on the show that has my name.
But I wanted to see. I wanted them to bring you on. This is a my God.
No, that's okay. Don't worry about it.
And I wanted.
Don't put them on a hot seat. You know, I'll just stand on.
All right.
I understand they would give me a good introduction, I hope. But I have a question for both of you good doctors. It comes to me from the mid-'60s when I had some unfortunate experiences that centered around this matter. Everything you say, both of you, I find very commendable, and I endorse it. I would just offer this. The process of leadership implementation is often a very difficult one. Sometimes it's unpleasant. Sometimes it even gets violent. The motives of those who seek or would impose leadership are not always wholesome ones. And these observations also apply to those who would give voice to ideological considerations. What are the dangers that people ought to be aware and cognizant of? What cautions must be taken? What palliatives? I say that because earlier in the week, I had the unpleasant experience of not dealing with learned, wise, intelligent, and experienced men who've actually done something with their time here. I've dealt with some people who can only be characterized charitably as trying to run a hustle. Back in the 60s, we called it either pimping the revolution or pimping the movement. And we have too many of those. They spread dysfunction. They spread ignorance. They're not learned. They try to down those who are educated and learned because they wouldn't qualify if you talked about an education and wisdom and discernment. They have an offering of flat earth / voodoo to give to the people. And that's not healthy for the people. So it's a thing to have to deal with that. How can you have a debate with someone who is so uneducated, so unwise, and so foolish that they are effectively worried about when the turtle that the rest of the world is riding on the back of is going to get to the end of the flat earth and fall off the edge when the waters cascade down. So it's kind of bad, and they get money from it. And sooner or later, we're going to have to start dealing with the fact that a lot of people that would start saying skin is automatic kin are going to turn out to be snitches, informants, agents provocateur, officers of some alphabet federal agency that would find that anything that rocks the boat is a matter to be, is something to be oppressed and is against the American interest. We're going to have to start dealing with those things because I can see them developing. Any thoughts?
Dr. Fraser,
one of the things I love about Judge Brown is his questions. If you listen to his question, always embedded in Judge Brown's question are the answers to his question. He does it in such an eloquent way. But I think Judge Brown gave everybody listening the clues to righteous and good and productive and effective leadership. And Judge Brown, you're 1,000% right. Why are we not where we are supposed to be? It's leadership. Leadership. If the fish stinks, look to the head. It's leadership. So let me define, from my perspective, leadership. I think to be a leader is to be awake and alert and to be dissatisfied at all times. Yes, we have come a long way, but we have much further to go. Therefore, I am not happy, but I am motivated by a positive anger directed towards positive change. Leadership is influence. Who are we influencing? We're influencing our children, because if our children cannot see the future, they will not pay the price. Everything we do, Dr. Boyce said this earlier, everything we do for our children, just as everything our parents did, they did for us. These are characteristics of great leaders. Leadership is action, not some appointed position. No one has to appoint you to do right by your family. No one has to appoint you to do right by your community. These are clues that we look for in great leaders. And also great leaders understand that everything begins with words. Words are the most powerful tools on earth. And they have power. Everything begins with words. This is biblical. Dr. Fraser didn't make this up. First there was the Word. And it is through these words, this is what I love so much about both of you, Judge Brown and Dr. Watkins. Through the words, you raise consciousness. You make people aware of certain things that bring them, in a sense, to an aha. And out of that aha, that raised consciousness, something sticks in their craw and they get energized and they get excited. They get passion and passionate. And it is through this passion that they take action. And it is through action we get change. That's the system that a good leader understands. Change is a system. Words, 1. Consciousness, 2. Passion, exciting people about the idea, the aha. 3. Action and change. You don't just generally take action from just words. You pick something out of those words that turns you on, that floats your boat, that ultimately you get passionate about, you take action, and you make change. Leaders are patient, and leaders are servants. And these are the qualities I think we have to look for in good leaders and future leaders, and teach them to comport themselves in that manner. A good, and I quit with this, a good leader inspires people to have confidence in the leader. But a great leader inspires people to have confidence in themselves. Mm-hmm. That is what good leaders do. Outstanding leaders go out of their way to boost the self-esteem of their people. And if people believe in themselves, it's amazing what they can accomplish. That's what a good leader does. Those are the characteristics.
Dr. Fraser, that is important. But sometimes in the process of assessing this, we have to realize or keep in mind that there's something that needs to be done about those whose particular leadership aspirations would destroy or impede us as a people. In other words, we have to be aware of the cultish Jim Jones type who would feed us Kool-Aid to drink, the wrong kind of Kool-Aid. And they inspire some people, particularly the weak-minded, to feel better about themselves, but they create all sorts of falsehoods and mythology that in the long and short term are very detrimental to the people, because essentially they inspire the people to just endure and do nothing rather than inspiring them to do something about their condition and circumstances.
That's right, Judge. I went on a little rant about Dr. Watkins, and I said, well, the core reason I love him is that not only is he a leader and an armchair philosopher, more important is that he's doing. You can see, it's tangible. He's producing tools, providing information, giving direction and coaching and mentoring to the masses that follow him. He's doing. Those are the kinds of leaders I follow. People who, in a sense, lead like I lead. Now,
okay, but Doc, I'm not talking about you. We get you are an appropriate leader. You're a wise man and you dispense wisdom. What I'm talking about is what is our proper response to those we can tell are not doing the right thing by the people, by what they're trying to implement and the positions they're trying to install themselves in. How do we react to them? I'm not talking about
expose them.
Conscientious leadership. I'm talking about what some scoundrels are trying to impose themselves on the black consciousness.
You must expose them. You must have the courage to call them out. You do. Dr. Watkins.
I do. Yes. But some people need to hear that, because it's one thing if one person that's accounted to be wise, you get a big but put in there. You sound okay, but why are you downing such and such? Well, young man, a young lady, I've seen this over the last 55, 56 years, and it's poisonous. It leads us nowhere. In fact, it hurts us. Well, how do you know that I saw it? Well, how can you tell? Because I recognize it. That's like to walk out into a forest and the person who knows how to read signs can tell you how many deer, what kind, and when they walk through here and where the rest of them are and how long it's been. And you won't see anything but dirt and foliage. You see, you have to be experienced and you have to learn these things. The other point I get is when somebody like the three of us tells certain types about something, they want to see references and citations. And sometimes it's like, look, the guy that's talking to you is the reference. He saw it. He witnessed it. He experienced it. He went through, walked the talk. He walked the walk, heard the talk, and did the deeds. You ought to listen to him. He is a source. No, I want to hear what... No, there's no reference. I was debating with some people who wanted to deny the existence of, well, not debating, it was sort of just harassment, but the other side was saying there was no slave trade and slave ships are a lie. You know, as a matter of fact, aliens moved the black man from Africa to the Americas. So that is just so really ranked out when it comes to being foolish. It's like, do you ever hear of science? That's the white man's lie. Science. Okay, how about truth has no truth, but truth has no face, but truth itself. And you want to deny mathematics, geometry, trigonometry, calculus, the things that enable the cell phone that you're spreading your version of foolishness on.
Mm-hmm.
That's just white man trying to use the black man. Okay, fine,
Mm-hmm.
but you saying it doesn't work, it's all a lie. Well, how does your cell phone work?
Right.
See,
well,
the other point is they discourage black folk from doing the research, reading the hard copy stuff, and just simply listening to nonsense palliatives on YouTube that are supposed to make them feel good.
Mm.
I agree with what you're saying. Bad leadership has been a toxin that we've dealt with for a very long time, and it's especially damaging for our community because we are targeted by this bad leadership. It's very much, it fits into, I remember, Judge, when you had spoken about propaganda and the art of propaganda and how it's used so regularly. It's being used right now. We see it all over the place. And I the way I've kind of processed this is I definitely think when you talk about quote-unquote black leadership, I noticed that black leadership tends to appear in a form that's different from leadership in almost any other community. Obviously, for example, we can't point to anybody that it represents white leadership, except maybe Joe Biden or someone like that, but there really isn't a white leader sort of leading white people to the promised land. If you're a Republican, maybe you listen to certain people. If you're a Democrat, you listen to somebody else. If you're independent, well, it goes across the board. In the Jewish community, when I think about Jewish leadership, I think about institutional leadership, and they do a very good job of representing Jewish interests. Even when everybody's unhappy with what they're doing, they still teach us that very basic lesson that power is its own truth to some extent. The person that has the biggest guns gets to decide how history is going to be written and all these other things, right? So I would say a couple things that we've done that I think are somewhat effective to deal with some of these agent provocateurs that you're talking about. I see them, and I see people that come in, and it seems that their goal is they're like the Joker in Batman. The Joker wasn't really trying to accomplish anything. The Joker just wanted to watch the world burn. He just wanted to destroy everything. And that's what happens when people throw bombs of uncertainty, doubt, etc. into the mix. And the way I've countered that is basically understanding that it's sometimes it's a matter of how strong the message resonates. I'm a big believer in, one, black people must make it a priority to control as much media as we possibly can. Those who care about the community, we have to own media. We have to control that. We were always very strategic in making sure that we had as much media as possible and that it was independent of any of these outside influences. Number two, I believe black people should take control of the education of our children. A lot of the propaganda and a lot of the misguided Negroes we have in the community are the ones who have the most credentials sometimes. The only thing worse than being uneducated is to be severely miseducated. And I know a lot of folks with MDs and PhDs and JDs and BAs and BSs who are literally using all that intellectual power to do things that are incredibly harmful and backward to black people. One simple example would be when you talk about this whole thing where we were taught that if we go to a white man's university and go $100,000 in debt, we were going to improve our community. Well, really, all that happens is that you die in debt. Half of all black college graduates can't even repay their student loans. And then also most of them leave the community anyway and become part of a brain drain because they end up working for white folks, right? So really, I think we must control as much media as possible. We must control as much of the educational process as possible. And also, we have to understand that the more effective we are, and I think you all understand, you're both great men, and I defer to you on every level, that when you go to battle and you pull out your gun, somebody's going to pull out their gun and they're going to aim it right back at you, right? We know that's how the world works. And so one of the other things that we have done in terms of dealing with some of the silliness that's out here is I believe deeply in decentralized black leadership. I believe black leadership needs to be family by family, where you empower as many thousands of people, millions of people to lead themselves and lead their own household. And so I would never let anybody just call me any kind of a black leader. I say, look, I'm an advisor. You're the leader. You're leading your household. You're leading your children. And I think that that's some sort of decentralization, also institutional leadership where we rebuild our institutions, leadership by committee where we have experts that provide facts and information from all walks of life, that as opposed to everybody just listening to whatever Al Sharpton has to say. No disrespect to Al Sharpton, but some have questioned and challenged his leadership. So at the end of the day, I'll summarize it by saying it's a little bit like this. Let's say that you work for Coca-Cola, and your goal is to get the whole world to drink Coke because you feel like it's the best drink in the world. But there are some people out here that want to drink Pepsi. And Pepsi's going to, when you run ad campaigns for Coke, they're going to run ad campaigns for Pepsi. And who wins? Well, Coca-Cola will never eliminate Pepsi. Pepsi's always going to go out and claim its market share. But at the end of the day, the team that wins is the one who is the most effective with their messaging, who has the most economic muscle behind their marketing. It pushes their idea the best, right? So our goal every day is to say, you know what? I know we got the terrible people out here. We got the provocateurs out here. We got the misinformation experts out here. And some of y'all are going to be swept up by that. But guess what? At the same time, I'm going to be right here in your face every day, answering every question and supporting you in every way that I possibly can, because I know that we're going to be a force as well. And so it doesn't solve the whole problem. And you're right. I think people need to be called out, and we can't be afraid to do that. But I think also at the same time, we know that there are always going to be enemies to black progress. That's just going to occur. And we can only learn from the past in terms of how to deal with that in the most effective way. I'm done, by the way.
Let me say something. I agree with you. Let me say something very briefly here. Everybody that has a voice ought to take every opportunity to badmouth being ignorant, being overly emotional, being irrational, and illogical. It needs to be branded as uncool and lame.
Right.
Another thing, on the political field, we always, no matter what, vote for a certain party. We always, no matter what, vote against another party. And as a consequence, there is no incentive possessed by either party to bargain with us for benefits, tangible benefits, in return for our votes. In other words, if you'll always get the person's vote, irrespective of whether you do anything for them, you've no incentive to do anything for them. And if no matter what you do try to do for them, you always get voted against no matter what, then you have no incentive to continue or to ramp up what you do for them. So we get nowhere. We get owned. We want to be part of something because there is this thing that is acknowledged. You hear about it in the media and in the papers all the time. One of the other political parties, most prominently the Democratic Party. So I guess a lot of black folk, with a need to feel like they belong, want to go that way even if they get absolutely nothing out of it. And even if you elect people who look like you instead of being your leadership, they're surrogates for somebody else, and your interests come in way behind everybody else's. So we need to start pushing being rational, logical, reasonable, and analytical. We've been through a 55-year-long program of negative pop propaganda that's created a negative dialectical spiral that leads ever down. We don't have what we used to have. If you looked at a few movies they had black folk in back in the 50s and 60s, generally the black people, if they weren't conforming to a negative stereotype, were about the business of working, going to college. 55 years ago, doctor, you had to be in college if you didn't want a nice year-long paid sabbatical in hot Vietnam or someplace. Now you found that you find that after 50 years of certain types taking the top positions in Hollywood, they found they can make a lot of money on appealing to the lowest black denominator. Pimps, hoes, burglars, drug dealers, murderers, thieves, gangsters, and everybody else that should be suppressed or is not good for the public peace, dignity, and order where most black people live. But you see, that's still fostered. Even rap music has stagnated for 40 years. There's been no new music in the black community. We used to have a complete paradigm shift every 5 to 10 years. In other words, there's no way your parents are going to dance to rhythm, same sampling. This has gotten dirtier and more dysfunctional, but it's the same. So we have stagnated. We haven't even invented any new music genre for 40 years. So what do? Where are we going? How do we get to people? And yes, you have some solutions. I have some. Both of you doctors do. But we need to get it out there and present it more forcefully and be intolerant of ignorance, stupidity, narrow-mindedness, superstition, and those who are hustling for personal gain, whether they're just the voice or whether they're actually trying to function as leadership. And frankly, I'm not a fan of the Reverend Al Sharpton. I'll ask, does he have a church, a congregation? And why is he pandering to that thing where the Negroes always get out and buck dance to music, and he's lost a lot of weight and he's trying to do his boyfriend James Brown's dance up behind the pulpit most recently? You know, what is this? Why is it that when we have so many young black girls who are getting pregnant out of wedlock, we've got a media that is glorifying a street-walking slut, Cardi B, who brags about being a prostitute and how she drugged her tricks so she could rob them. And then we've got somebody that is a fat harlot that cries about being fat-shamed, and she wants to do filthy body movements, grease down, oil down, or wet down with champagne naked in public. For goodness sakes, act like you've got some class and maybe you won't get talked about. I mean, why are we angling and not speaking out against these things and negating shame and embarrassment, which have always been mechanisms that have caused humans to behave appropriately and acceptably? What is with us? When are we going
We're
to
out
the
of our
school
natural
board
mind.
meetings? Our children need education, not being converted by pedophiles into sexual bait at 8, 7, 9 years old. What is this?
I'll just say that I don't know exactly what it is. You know, I can tell you this though. What I found this past week was that there's millions of people who understand exactly where you're coming from, and that's enough to build your army. You know, and the thing is, what I have found is that, you know, my army ain't everybody's army. You know, but my army is still my army. You know, and so while I don't necessarily know how to. There's some places and some people I can't build a bridge to some of those people. You know, some people unfortunately have been so affected by ideas that I don't understand that I don't really know exactly how to persuade or connect with them. And then some people, I don't have a problem condemning you if I feel that what you're doing is harmful to the people that I represent. But I also find that I can also challenge you by simply providing an alternative that I believe is better than whatever you've been exposed to. You know, like I remember what was it when Elijah Muhammad, I think, said to Malcolm in the movie. I don't even know if he really said this, but I like the statement where he said that if people are used to drinking dirty water, you don't have to tell them that the water is dirty and tell them why it's unhealthy. You just put a glass of clean water right next to it. And I think that's an effective way to kind of say, look, whatever's out there, if that's working for you, then by all means go for it. But here's something else over here. And what I have found...
I like that, by the way.
Yeah,
oh, you agree? Okay.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, when we present people with truth and love, I don't have to talk them into changing their mind, because they know the pain of living in a world where you feel like the white man controls your entire destiny. They know what it's like to get up and go to work every day for people that hate their guts. They know, they know that something's wrong. They just can't quite put their finger on it. And so what I have found is that there are a lot of people where if you just present them with another way of viewing the world, they'll come along. You don't even have to talk to them about it. You don't have to say a word about whatever they were looking at in the first place. A lot of people will end up rejecting it on their own. That's what I have seen.
Well, sometimes. Sometimes that works very effectively, Doctor. Dr. Watkins, you are perceptive in that. Some people have converted perspectives into firm beliefs because they don't know any better. They've never had to deal with objectivity and rationality in their lives. And it's all about an emotional up and down, an emotional roller coaster, this way, that way. And, it's crazy. And then when they run into somebody that's offering that clean glass of water as contrasted to the dirty water, they try to attack it because it is a contrast that makes the dysfunction that they're pushing quite obvious. So they attack it. Not saying that anytime you're doing something right or meritorious, you're not going to run into some opposition, some adversity, because there are too many people that personally and individually profit off of dysfunction to pass up the opportunity of destroying an alternative to dysfunction, because that's how they make what they get. Anyway.
I think I love the analogy of dirty water versus clean water, and maybe I love it because it is so connected to what I'm going to say as simply as humanly possible, and that is Judge, Dr. Watkins, Dr. Fraser, and those of a like mind, keep talking and keep going. You're the clean water, and you'll hold this metaphorical glass of clean water up to anything that is currently being done. And if we keep talking it, and Judge touched on it a bit in his last statement, we have to talk louder, actually. As much as we're doing, we have to do more, actually. And we have to find as many megaphones to as many tributaries and pathways to our people, wherever they gather, because the conditions are the same. I've said this a million times. I've given over 2,500 speeches. I've been every place that black people have been dispersed. From San Diego to Maine, from Seattle to Miami, from Kingston to the Cameroon, Bahia, and the state of our people. Just amazing to me, the state of our people, certainly the economic state of our people, wherever we go, is exactly the same. So there is a tremendous amount of work to do. It's intergenerational work. And you said something right at the beginning, Dr. Watkins, about we are laying the foundations, that we're having a new conversation, and there are many that are listening. The demand for me to talk is far beyond the time and capacity that I have to fulfill that demand. The same for you, Dr. Watkins, the same for you, Judge Brown. And if we just keep saying what we're saying, for as long as God gives us life, that's our commitment to our people. That's the clean water. Others will see it, compare it to what they currently have, and they will come aboard. That's why we have to understand that this is an intergenerational challenge, that we're not going to get to our promised land, and you said it earlier, Dr. Watkins. Certainly we will not get there in our lifetime. But no one will ever be able to say that we were not, in a sense, the Black Paul Reveres, that we're not on our horses using every megaphone, every opportunity to speak our truth. There will be some that will hear it, and they'll come aboard. Many that don't, and they'll do whatever they're going to do. You're not going to fix them. You're not going to fix them. And don't waste your time to try to fix people that when you reach down to lift them up, they got their arms folded. They're not interested. You're wasting your breath. Work on those who are down and their hands are up. And it's easy for you to reach down and to grab those hands and to lift them up. Put your work while you have this time. That's the biggest freaking mistake we make. We think we have time. As I tell people, do anything but don't waste my time. I will get more money, but I will not get any more time, and I'm not going to allow you to waste it. You will always know how much money you have, but you will never know how much time you have. So every minute is precious, because what you're saying, Judge, your thoughts, you have forgotten more than most know with your experience and your wisdom. And Dr. Watkins the same. You just have to keep talking for as long as you have breath. You're the clean water. I'm the clean water. And there are others. We're not the only ones. And we haven't reached critical mass. But we are making inroads. And in my 76 years, I have seen movement forward, progress, some movement backward, some movement sideways, some movement again forward. And we have to stay focused on what we are talking about, because it is what needs to be talked about in this time. I don't know how to get a bigger platform. I'm not that celebrity television guy. I just know that I'm effective in the platforms that God gives me. As Judge Brown, you are very effective in this platform that God has given you, and Dr. Boyce and social media and the things that you're doing. You're very, very effective, and we must have that. You're a model. We're models, actually. All of our people need help. There's 46 million of us in this country and 1.4 billion on the continent. We all need help. And there are not enough voices But if we keep talking and keep saying what we're saying, something will happen. Now, I'm also a believer, and I have this little saying up on my wall. I'm looking at it right now. I look at it every damn day. And it says, when all is said and done, more will be said than done. And this is true. This is true. This is true. I've lived long enough to say that. For me, that's the gospel. I'm just not going to be the one just saying it. I'm going to be the one saying it and then backing it up and doing it. And then we need the hue and cry of those who will beat our behinds, correct us. And so I'm hopeful. I have a little list. I refer to this list every single day. Building Black Greatness is my little list. And I look at it every day. Talk about money. Get Black folks to read and be committed to personal growth and development and intellectual curiosity to lay the foundation for critical thinking. We do not have a critical mass of critical thinkers. Rebuild the Black family. Educate and motivate our own children. Teach them their history. They're not going to get it in school. Teach it to them at home. Teach them about business. Forget get a good education and get a good job. Just get a good education and create a job. Create a job for yourself. Create a job for your children. If God gives you the power and the glory, create work and jobs for our people. Create our own jobs and businesses. Build a capacity to do that. That's the only thing we're lacking. We're not lacking opportunity. We're lacking capacity. In the 21st century, for us in the business sphere, is building capacity. Support those businesses. And then I wrote this about 2 years ago. The final bullet point I had on here, I'm so overjoyed to hear you say it, Dr. Watkins. I had leadership, self-leadership. Self-leadership. The Dr. Kings, the Malcolms, the Stokeleys, the Garveys, that era is gone. And we're now going to have to go inward, and we're going to have to self-lead ourselves and teach our children how to do that. So I'm loving this conversation. It's seldom on other platforms do we get to articulate. I mean, there's so much like-minded discussion, thinking. This is a powerhouse discussion in and to itself. I hope it gets out to every Black person on social media and that listens to any kind of radio. This is what they need to hear. We just have to keep saying it until we're gone. Don't be discouraged and don't get tired. I'm closer to 77 than I am to 76. And this is the best work that I've ever done in my 77 years of life. And, you know, I think I told you the story, and I'm finished with this. The New England Journal of Medicine's 2018 study on the 3 most productive periods of your life is amazing. The 3rd most productive period of your life, brothers and sisters, is between 50 and 60. The 2nd most productive period of your life is between 70 and 80. And the number 1 most productive period of your life is between 60 and 70. The average age of a Nobel Prize winner is 62. The average age of a CEO of a Fortune 500 company is 63. The average age of the pastors of the 100 biggest mega churches in America is 71. Moses got his assignment at 80. The average age of a pope is 76. Mandela became president of South Africa at 76. Gandhi secured India's independence at 61. Ray Kroc founded McDonald's at nearly 60. Toni Morrison won her Pulitzer for Beloved at 57, then her Nobel at 62. Frank Lloyd Wright, the great iconic architect, finished his magnum opus, the Guggenheim Museum on 54th Street and 7th Avenue, at 91. So this tells us somehow God has designed that the best years of our life is between 60 and 80. This is when we do our best work. So if you're 0 to 49 listening to this, you ain't done nothing yet as compared to what you are capable and will ultimately do if you chart a good and righteous course and stay that course until God takes your breath away. And so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Wow.
Thank you so much for that. I want to do a time check. Dr. B, how much time you got with us? And then I have a question for the three of you.
Well, I've got
Dr. Fraser, let me interject something. I'm not as good as I used to be, but most of the time I'm better than I ever was.
There you go. There you go.
Well, let me say this, Valerie. I've got to actually go with the hour. But I'll say to add to the great points that were made earlier about what it takes to shift the culture. One thing I study a lot. I study war quite a bit, and I don't know why. I don't know why I'm interested in war, but it teaches me a lot about life. You know, it teaches me about the white man. It teaches me about how treacherous people can be if you are incapable of defending yourself. It reminds me of the importance and necessity of masculine leadership, which these two gentlemen represent, which is one of the reasons I respect them so much. Not that the women don't have a very important role. We know this, but you got to have some men in there too. You got to have your masculinity. Also, war teaches me about the importance of when I think about how close it was for the Americans and the British. I noticed that information was extremely important. That if you could not get the information you needed to decipher codes and figure out the positions of the enemy planes and things like that, you were going to die. Talking about the importance of innovation. If the British could not develop radar systems to detect German planes, they were going to die. If we couldn't invent the nuclear bomb before somebody else did, we were going to die. Because if they got it first, they were going to use it on us, right? And also the last piece I'll throw in here that I think is going to help black people win this war, whatever this war is for you, because I do believe that because we are the original man, original woman, I do believe there's something special in our DNA that makes us extraordinary. The only people that can take out black people are black people ourselves. We've just been taught to turn the gun on ourselves, but there's never been any human being in the history of this planet built with the same DNA as the Africans in America. Black people in this country, we're the only ones who can say that our ancestors survived the slave dungeons. We're the only ones who can say our ancestors survived the Middle Passage. We're the only ones who can say our ancestors survived 250 years of the most brutal slavery in the history of mankind. We survived the crack era. We survived mass incarceration. And we're also surviving whatever they're doing to us right now. And so with that said, the last component I would say that I think could be incredibly instrumental and very effective in us shifting the culture and elevating our community en masse is the last component. The last thing I learned from watching war was I remember noticing how the Germans were really intelligent. You know, they invented the best rocket ships. They had the best submarines. They had the best tanks. But where the Americans won is that Americans had a massive amount of industrial capacity. They had amazing systems where they could, for every one plane the Germans made, they could make 10 or 20. For every ship they made, we'd make 30 or 40. And this massive industrial capacity, the ability to find a model that works and replicate that model, made the difference, in this war. And if you think about winning war, if you talk about fighting a system of white supremacy is a system. And up until this point, most of our black leadership comes in the form of maybe one really intelligent super Negro who sits in front of everybody and says, everybody follow me, everybody listen to me. I don't believe you can fight a system with one-offs, with one great man or one great woman or a couple of great people.
Right.
I believe you fight a system with a system. And my argument is for black people to really rise and elevate, we're going to have to systematically mass produce young people who have the ideology that puts blackness at the top of the priority list. And they have to mass produce young people that have black excellence just as a standard rite of passage. We must mass produce young people who believe deeply in the value of business ownership, investing in themselves, investing in their community. Mass produce black people who care about things like family and the things that matter for us. And I believe that it's that army that we build that will allow us to win the war. And that's something where, if you think about it, if you want to see examples of what's already true, look around at, look at the way the NBA and the NFL, how did they get the best athletes in the world? Well, they have training camps in every city where when your child is 7 years old, if he's big for his age, some coach comes up and says to the child's mother, when are you going to bring your son out for basketball? When are you going to bring him out for football? So because of these thousands and thousands of training camps around the country that are indoctrinating little black boys into basketball, football, hip-hop, whatever, we have millions of black people that are all part of that culture, right? So I would say the same thing must be true when it comes to black excellence, when it comes to education, when it comes to our economic beliefs and ideologies. We must literally reclaim that educational process and systematize it so that we can mass produce so many black people that are on the same page economically and ideologically, that even if they go out here and they kill Judge Joe Brown or kill Boyce Watkins or kill Dr. George C. Fraser, it won't matter, because there will be millions of people out there who will carry the ideas on. The ideas will always live longer than the man, but the ideas must be we must have intentionality in ensuring that our young people are carrying that vision with them, so that they can't kill a movement that strong. That's just my 2 cents. I think that industrialization of what we believe is one of the keys to our power. And we will win this war, because we can't lose.
Let me put an exclamation mark on that point. That's a fabulous point, Dr. Watkins. God has unusual ways of bringing us into war. When we are in war, we create. We create when we are in war. We survive when we are in war, which takes creative skills. So that is important. That sort of state of war mindset. You've got to manage it so it doesn't stress you out. But that's when we man up and woman up. And that's when we are at our creative best. And you articulate what we have already survived. Human wars, the Middle Passage, 250 years of the most egregious slavery system invented by humankind, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We were at war. We survived. And we're at war now. And we will survive it. And we will do exactly what you're hoping that we will do, and that we will teach millions of other young people the way. We just have to keep saying it. The key to learning is simplicity and repetition. You got to say it 50 different ways on 50 different days. You just keep saying what you're saying. Judge, keep saying what you're saying. And it will change. We're fighting a war. We're in a war. And we're very creative. And I'm hopeful. That's why I keep saying I'm hopeful. There is a cloud. There's no question about that. And sometimes there's thunders coming out of that cloud. We read about this stuff every day. And sometimes it's rain, and sometimes the clouds part and there's sunshine. As long as the clouds on occasion part and there's sunshine, I'm just fine. Right? I suck in that sunshine, and it energizes me. And I go back to work. I've been doing that for 40 years. It's 77. I'm at the end of the most productive period, and that's between 70 and 80, the second most productive period. But I don't feel like that. I feel like I can go another decade because I am a soldier in this war. Maybe I've even risen to lieutenant, but I'm in a war, and I'm energized by that. I'm creating. I'm thinking. Never, I dream about this. So I just want to say that as a word of encouragement. I think at times a war mentality is a good thing if you internalize it properly and act in meaningful and productive ways.
You're going to win whatever war that you see this as. We're going to win this war. And it's not as basic as a war against the white man and nothing like that. I think you can win this war truly with love. I don't think you have to win it with hate. I don't think you have to be mad at anybody. I don't think you have to be rude toward other people. I think that you simply have to embrace this idea that it's okay for you to love the hell out of yourself and not apologize for it. Also, it's going to take some practicality, and I'm going to tell you, I don't say this much in public, but the reality, because people are very sensitive about it, but the reality is that this pandemic might be the best thing to ever happen to black people. It really might be, because for many years we've basically said the same message for 10, 12 years that Dr. Fraser is, mentioned earlier about repetition. We've always said black people need to educate our own children, create our own jobs, and support black-owned business. This came from research in terms of figuring out, what are the things that are holding our people back. And so ultimately, this pandemic has pushed us to do exactly that. We're homeschooling our kids. We're in the middle of the Great Resignation. Black people were the first ones to start the Great Resignation. We started all the trends, and we were part of the Great Resignation before the Great Resignation even started, because everybody was trying to get off the corporate plantation. And so this is a renaissance that you're witnessing now. Now, what has to occur is we must make sure that we accompany this opportunity and this transformation with enough vision to implement systematic and mass-produced outcomes that will sustain for the next generation. Let me give you a quick example. You got a lot of millionaire, billionaire black folks in sports and entertainment and everything else, and a lot of the rappers are even rapping about wealth and things like that. This is kind of a new thing lately. Well, I will tell you what, I still don't understand why, with all these millionaire athletes that brag about how much money they have, why don't you have your own professional sports league yet? Why is Kyrie Irving sitting on the sidelines now when you got all these millionaire, billionaire black athletes bragging about how much money they have? To me, here's the deal. Here's the simple rule. If you are a successful black person who brags to other black people about how much money and power you have, my question to you will be very basic. How many jobs have you created for other black people? If you are a Jay-Z and you are a billionaire and everybody gives you credit for that, can I go back to the Marcy Project where you were born and find 5,000 to 10,000 people who can say, I have a job because of Jay-Z? Because, look, Jeff Bezos probably employs about 1.2 million people. Elon Musk employs hundreds of thousands, if not a million people between Tesla and SpaceX. Who are the black industrialists who are creating thousands and thousands of jobs that are going to lift our people out of whatever we feel like we're in right now? I don't see a lot of those people out there, and if they do exist and we're not acknowledging them, those need to be our superheroes. Stop celebrating individual success. Let's start focusing on community success, and that is the blueprint, I believe, that will elevate our people into the next century and beyond.
Amen.
Thank you all very much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. And I've got Valerie, I've got to run as well.
Hold on.
Yes, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to get your social media, Dr. Fraser. I'll pass it to you. Get your social media, any promotions. That's it.
Okay, well, people can follow me at boycewatkins.com. That's boycewatkins.com. Also, if you'd like to get started on your economic journey, we'd love to help you at theblackbusinessschool.com. That's theblackbusinessschool.com. So God bless everybody. And it's good talking to you, Judge Brown and Dr. Fraser and Valerie. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you. We love you. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Tell Karen we said hi.
Don't be a stranger.
Sure will.
Don't be a
Yes,
stranger.
sir. Bye-bye now.
Follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I post every single day something inspirational, something quick, and something simple. And I believe the simpler you can say it, the more it hooks into people's brains, and they can repeat it. And the greatest joy, one of the greatest joys I get is when people come up to me and they say to me, Dr. Fraser, I heard you speak about 20 years ago, and I'll never forget something that you said. And then they will repeat it. And they heard it 20 years ago. And I just do a little fist pump, and I'm just overjoyed by that. So if you follow me on social media, you will see the things that I post every single day. I'm posting something every day, 365 days a year. I have over 11,000 posts on Facebook. And so if you want a little bit of inspiration, every single day, then follow me. Today's post simply said, the goal is to win, to look like you're winning. So you get stuff like that, something you can read in less than 2 seconds. A little bit of inspiration. So that's my story. Again, I'm sticking to it. And I really enjoyed this. I always enjoy being with Judge Brown and with a cherry on top with Dr. Boyce Watkins, and made my week. Thank you, Judge.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks,
Give us
Dr.
a shout out
Fraser.
on your social
Appreciate
media.
it. Always. I like a man of wisdom, discernment, education, and experience in life. And as you said earlier about what the phases are of a man's life, I wholeheartedly agree. That period between 50 and 60 is when it all happens.
Hello. That's right. There you go.
And when you get to the 70s, it ain't all that bad either, assuming you got good health.
That's right. Love you all. And thank
love you
all of those of you who tuned in. You spent a really good 2 hours. And,
definitely.
We'll do this again.
Yeah.
A lot to talk.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Don't be a stranger.
All right. Appreciate you.
All right.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you,
one.
Sir.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thanks.
I hope you're enjoying this big exclusive via the Judge Joe Brown Show. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Now, back to the show.
This show is sponsored by the Hurricane Reports, merchandise, and more.